Our great continent is trapped in donor funds, and I'll tell you how we are trapped in donor funds. The same people who give us in Africa donor funds, I will not call them donor funds, because as a matter of fact, they are returning to Africa what I would say they have stolen from Africa. When you give policies that say that, for example, that America must sell their second-hand clothes to Africa. And I have seen the battle, for example, between Rwanda and America. And my biggest question is that if the American has worn their clothes as a first-hand clothes, why must they insist on selling them as second-hand clothes to Africa? What is going to happen to our textile companies? America does not have good climate and good soil that can grow cotton for clothing like it can happen in Rwanda and any African country. They do not have better brains than Africans that can make clothing. I'll give you an example. We have got our area processing zones in Kenya, and I visited one of them in Kenya. And Woolworth sends already pieces of textile for only stitching. They send already made fabric in America for only to come, for us in Africa to come only and stitch. Meaning that they do not allow us to do the fabric in Africa. Our work, we are only supposed to do the slave part of stitching, and after stitching, we return it back. You cannot come to Africa, get all the cotton from Africa as raw material, take it back to your country, and when you take it back to your country, you make fabric by creating jobs in your own country. You send it back to Africa only for stitching, the job that does not matter, and the job that pays like only $100 a month. If you go to Botswana and you get all the diamonds that are not refined, and you go and make jewelries and you return them back to Botswana or to Africa at an over 100 times price, or you go and get gold in Johannesburg, you take it to your country, you refine it, and you bring it back over 50 times. You come and get coffee, double A from Kenyan Islands, which is 9 months sun-ripened coffee. You take it to Houston and you package it and you bring it back, costing 20 times more than how you bought it. You use our labor to do all this. Britons come here with the tool. They excavate oil in all places in Africa. They take it out as crude oil, and when it's coming back as refined fuel, it is costing 10 times more. You go to Nigeria and pick all the oil and you take to your country and process as crude oil, and you say that your policy is only to import crude oil, and you bring it, and after making that wealth, you give us some handouts in the name of donor funds, and you tell us you are dictating on how we must stay on those handouts. Seriously, we are in a trap, because your donor funds as a first world country are only meant to sustain us as slaves, to keep on doing what we do best, and that is helping you to survive as a first world country. If you go to all the developed world, you rarely find billboards of donor and charitable organizations. I've worked in a lot of villages in Africa, and every village you go, you find that there are billboards saying that we are World Vision, we are Help the World, we are Help the Child. Everywhere in Africa is donor fund. And I've gone to a country like South Sudan. You go to Torit. Torit has a lot of natural resources. Talk about gold. The river Nile that passes through South Sudan, a stretch of like 150 kilometers, the river by 1 kilometer is covered by mangoes that nobody eats. We've got titanium at the coast of Kenya. All these good and great resources we have in Africa, they end up in the hands of economies that their policies only dictate to import raw materials. And by the end of the day, organizations like USAID or UKAID, they are all flooding Africa with some small handouts. Yet, we have what it takes in Africa. I'll tell you that there is no nation and the continent of Africa cannot survive by handouts. We are not dogs to survive on leftovers. We can only succeed if we agree to do the things that every other person does. And that is creating policies and policy frameworks in African continent and in African countries where we are no longer going to be bullied by the white supremacy. And anybody who tells us that, yes, this is the donor fund, that we can exploit our resources that we have, we can plan for our resources and make wealth out of our resources. Donor funds are not going to help us. What will help Africa is when Africa starts creating products that can compete with the world, products that can be sold across the border. It's really interesting that in Africa we have a population of 1.3 billion people. And with a whole population of 1.3 billion, that is already a market that is good enough. I'm happy that over 38 presidents recently signed an intra-Africa trade agreement, trade deal. The geographical demarcations that we have in Africa, they never used to exist. They only existed and they only came about when the colonial master came to Africa and he was scrabbling for African resources. So for them to share the African resources, they had to divide us by our tribal borders. They had to divide us by the regions. The Belgians had to take Congo, where there is gold, and because they could not have all the gold in Africa, the Boers had to take some part of Africa by getting themselves South Africa. The Britons had to get Kenya and Uganda. The French, up to date we have 15 African countries that are paying taxes to France. And then the French believe that they are helping the Central African Republic when they give donor. Yet they are taking resources from the same African countries. So the time we are going to realize that Africa is just one continent and that we have fallen into an economic trap called donor funds, and we start looking at our continent and looking at what is within our continent and protecting it with jealousy and with everything, the time that this continent leaders are going to say enough is enough, when a time that is going to come when the leaders in Africa will not be thinking about me, myself, and I, that they will be thinking about the welfare of this continent and the future of the children in this continent. And when the leaders will start thinking, let us make this continent matter. Because many times I've said that this is the only continent where we can live without another continent, but there is no other continent in the world that can survive without Africa. We've got very serious brains. That moment we are going to say that we are not other dogs, that we do not want to eat the remains of the cake. We want to sit on the global economic cake and share part of it. And we are not lesser because we have something that we can negotiate with. We have our gold, we have got our titanium, we have got our beryl, that we have got our oil, we have got brains in Africa, and that we are going to put very good economic policies that govern our resources in Africa. And we are going to create wealth. We are going to protect our continent. And Africa is going to be one that I will travel to Bangui without looking for a visa. That I am going to go to South Sudan without the need to look for a visa. That I will go to Cape Town. That I will go to Lagos and go to Democratic Republic of Congo, that I can visit Arusha like I'm an African, the way an American can cross to Canada to see the waterfall, the way the Europeans can go to America without pressure. The time we are going to realize that we have a big population that we can capitalize and make our products and create a big marketplace for all Africa, this continent is going to be a superpower continent. Thank you.